Napoli fans around the world, welcome to Napoli Talk, to this new season that is ahead of us with lots of new changes, new players, new coach, new shirts, even a new Napoli logo. Let's talk about all this, everything that's happened over the last few days, and what's to happen in the next few days leading up to the start of the new season with Conte and his boys ready to take on the summer preseason ahead of the start of the season. So let's start with what changed first, which is the logos, right? I say logos because in the end, Napoli now doesn't have one logo, it has multiple. It's a very interesting design choice by Napoli. As you can see here, depending on the background that we have, whether it's on a shirt, whether it's next to a sponsor image, the Napoli logo will change. It's a monochromatic logo, removed a lot of the details, and I think it works very nicely when you integrate it with something like a t-shirt where the N sticks out a little bit more. You can play around with the colors. It's a lot cleaner. I know some of you guys don't like it, but guys, this is where the industry is going in general. Let's take a look at the BMW logo, for example. You see, in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, it was very similar to what Napoli had, right? Which you had a logo that had a bit of a lighting effect on it, where it's a bit darker on one side, a bit lighter on the other. You can see it with the Napoli logo here as well. If we go to what it was before, you can see there was a bit of a light over here, a bit of shade over there. Now that's completely out of trend. The trend now is to minimize everything, make the logo more adaptable to the background, and really make it so that you can apply it to as many sponsors as possible without creating color disagreements between them. I think that's very important when you're trying to appeal to a wider audience and you're trying to collect as many sponsors as possible. For me, I'm fully okay with this. I like it. I think it's clean, and honestly, it's something that we've seen with the last few shirts as well. All the special edition shirts, all, well, not all, but most of the recent ones have come with this new logo. Napoli are playing around with the colors. On Instagram, we've got this dark navy blue. On Facebook, we've got the bright azzurro blue. So you can see that we don't have one color anymore. It will adapt and change. And I think that's also very cool because we know that when we see this color, we're talking about Facebook. When we see the other color, we're talking about Instagram. Um, it's very cool. It gives each channel a bit of its own identity. And we can see here with the image of Conte. Well, I have to log in, but you can see it here with the image of Conte with the gray shirt that the color of the Napoli logo changes once again. By the way, great training kits as well have been released. Right. The new shirt, let's talk about that a little bit. So we've got a bit of a collar going on. I personally quite like a shirt with a collar, which is why I'm wearing one right now in honor of this Napoli shirt, which I still don't have. I like it. It means I can use it in the office, right? I mean, it's got a collar, so why not? No, but it's very cool, guys. It's very cool. It's different. We always are improving year on year since Valentina took over the merchandising and marketing aspect, and I can't wait for the second, third, and however many more versions are going to come out this year. We've done a huge step up over the years. And De Laurentiis' decision to auto-produce his own t-shirts with the help of Emporio Armani, I think is really paying off because the more I see Adidas and Nike and all and Puma, especially in this Euro 2024. I think how ugly some of the shirts are, and then I take a look at Napoli's, and it's honestly a work of art in my opinion. But everybody has their own opinion with this stuff. I'll let you guys put it down in the comments below what you think of this shirt. Let's go back to the football with Antonio Conte and his boys starting their preseason training today. Obviously, today will just be about physical tests, making sure that everybody is fit, getting some data, and honestly, just saying hi to the manager, to the players, getting to really know them in person. But we also had Mazzocchi turn up uh, in prime Teo Hernandez version. I mean, look at that style. I looked at this picture for 5 minutes and I couldn't understand who this guy was. I mean, since when is Mazzocchi blonde, guys? This is incredible style by Mazzocchi, and he is fully ready for this new season. Let's go to the players that are going to be joining Napoli this season, guys. Rafa Marin from Real Madrid. He was with Alaves last year, but he's a Real Madrid owned player. As you can see from Fabrizio Romano's post, Napoli will pay Real Madrid 12 million this year. Real Madrid in 2 years' time has the option to buy him back for 25, or in 3 years' time for 35 million. So they can either buy him back for double in 2 years or triple in 3 years. But in 2 years, Napoli can pay an additional 10 million more to Real Madrid. So they go from 12 to 22 that they spend in total. And if Real Madrid want him in 2026, they would have to pay 50. So more than double of 22, or 70, so even more than 3 times 22 in 2027. So basically, if Madrid want him back, we're going to make massive profits from him, but at least we're going to be able to keep him for 2025 and 2026 for at least 2 years. Guys, I actually quite like these deals that have very clear structures, that have very clear release clauses or buyback clauses that change over time. Because I think that, as there's a saying in Italy, no? Patti chiari, amicizia lunga, or something. I butchered it, no? But basically, if you strike a deal and it's very clear, then you have a long friendship. What does that mean? It means that if things are clear on the contract, there's no reason for anybody to get mad about the terms and conditions. Basically, this is what we should have done with Osimhen, with Kvara, and all that. Like, hey, if you reach certain objectives, then your release clause is this, then your salary is this. And it's something that's dynamic so that people know exactly where they stand and they don't get upset about being on the same contract for 3-4 years time, especially since things have changed. Then there's the buongiorno situation, guys. Buongiorno is expected to sign for Napoli. The thing about Buongiorno, guys, is that he is leaving Torino as captain in a very, very exemplary way. No media outbursts, no agent coming on the radio and saying he's leaving, he's staying, he wants this, he wants that. Everything is done behind closed doors in respectful manner. He showed up to the Torino training today and yesterday knowing that he's going to leave. Some players, when they know that they're going to leave, they just stay home. It's a sign of disrespect. He was still signing autographs with his current slash old club. Guys, this is the type of player that I'm happy to have on the team soon, because it's a sign of how he will behave himself one day when he will leave Napoli if he decides to leave Napoli. They're deciding now on the release clause. Apparently, Napoli wants to set it somewhere in the region of 70 million, similar to the one that Rafa Marin might have starting in 2027. But the agreement with Torino is basically done, at least according to sources. And Spinazzola had his medical checkup yesterday. Now, guys, I want to go on Data MB and I just want to compare some of these players a little bit, right? So I think it's very cool to see, for example, how they compare with the players that we had before and other players in Serie A. So for example, let's go find Spinazzola, and we can see here that Spinazzola, guys, look at this statistic. Compared to all the left backs that have been registered in the system across all 5 leagues, Spinazzola is by far the highest in progressive carries per 90 minutes. That means taking the ball and going forward with it with your feet, basically, right? The things that we're used to Theo Hernandez doing in Milan. Spinazzola is way off the charts with that. And on the positive side of defensive duels won, he's also quite far up regarding key passes per 90 minutes and also progressive passes, so forward passes per 90 minutes. So a very attack-minded player, guys. What you can see here, though, and from his statistic, is that defensively, he is not so strong. He is in the bottom 3% for defensive actions, bottom 4% for aerial duels, despite him being above 6 foot or 184 centimeters. So he gives you that attacking mindset, that attacking style. He's not the type of center back or fullback, sorry, that you're going to be relying from a defensive point of view. Let's compare him to, for example, Oliveira. And let's see how he compares to Oliveira. So you see that compared to Oliveira is much more defensive minded. Way higher percentage of aerial duels won, normal duels won, defensive actions, and Oliveira also gives you the same level of progressive passes and crosses. But something that Oliveira doesn't give you is carrying the ball with your feet forward. Sometimes we see players, they just stop at the halfway line, right? They stop at the halfway line, and then maybe they pass it sideways, or they don't try to find that that corridor of space and really go and attack the box or attack the width. This is something that Spinazzola in blue can give you. He's also much higher on the spectrum when it comes to expected assists, which is something that Napoli has lacked a lot this past season when it comes to fullbacks. We basically were not serving Osimhen at all with crosses. I mean, if I go to Di Lorenzo, for example, he's in green. He's also not at that level when it comes to assists and when it comes to especially percentage of crosses. I mean, Di Lorenzo might give you some assists when it comes to a through ball, but when it comes to putting the ball from a crossing position across the box, Di Lorenzo just doesn't do that very often, and more often than not hits the front man. This is something that Spinazzola in blue gives you, which is a little bit different. There's a lot of concerns about his fitness. Guys, he and Oliveira are going to alternate in that position. Potentially, there's even going to be new players coming in as well if Oliveira gets moved to a center back position. As we can see, he's very good defensively, Oliveira, and he's been playing that way with Uruguay in the Copa America. But we don't need Spinazzola to play 38 games. If he plays 20, 25, that's perfect. We can manage that, especially this season when we don't have Champions League games. Now, let's go to our center backs, all right? So let's see what center backs we have in our squad, and let's take, for example, Rachmani. Okay, Rachmani, as you can see, just a very average player, right? Just kind of average compared to the center backs, and we know that he's not the best, he's not the worst. Let's compare him to, for example, Buongiorno from Torino. And look, Buongiorno in blue, Rachmani in pink. You can see here two completely different styles of defenders. See, Rachmani is one that he maybe offers something a little bit more than Buongiorno in the sense of starting the maneuver. But I will say that having watched him with my own eyes, this data could be misleading. A lot of this high percentage of passes is because Napoli is intrinsically a team that likes to start from the back, and so obviously that will boost your numbers up. Also, when it comes to your percentage of accuracy, it will go up because he's always passing it sideways very easily. Buongiorno, on the other hand, he's got a very low number of passes that he does per 90 minutes, quite a low accuracy as well. But what he does give you is solidity at the back. He is a no-nonsense defender. He is number one when it comes to defensive actions. He is in the 99.6 percentile when it comes to that. That means blocks, tackles, all that kind of stuff. He wins the majority of his duels, 92 percentile, with duels won, way higher than Rachmani. Look at how low Rachmani's defensive actions are, basically inexistent, which is quite sad for a center back. So that's what Buongiorno can give you, much more solidity at the back. It's also interesting to see what Rafa Marin has been up to, and you can see here that he complements Buongiorno a little bit more, because if we were to play Buongiorno and Rafa Marin as our center back pairing in some games, he does have a bit more of a forward passing ability than Buongiorno. So the distribution of the ball going forward would rely on Rafa Marin rather than Buongiorno. But again, these stats are dictated by the fact that they played in teams last year that were not playing predominantly from the back. We have to see how Buongiorno and Rafa Marin will adapt to a Napoli that might be a bit more risk-taking. We have to see what Conte does, and make sure that you subscribe to Napoli Talk if you're not yet subscribed. Put down in the comments below which formation you think Conte is going to use. Write down what you think of the defensive acquisitions that we've done. Conte's been very, very targeted with who he wanted to buy, clearly focusing on the defense. And let me know what you're most excited about for this season. And as always, guys, have a good one, and Forza Napoli sempre. Ciao.